Hi everyone, I'm really glad to be back on YouTube doing my makeup videos again. I'm going to be doing this look today. It's just a really light and natural day look with a bit of sort of fun colour. So I hope you enjoy. So starting with a clean face, I've already moisturised, but my skin feels quite dehydrated at the moment, so I'm going to use a bit of this MAC charged water. Just a mist for a bit of extra hydration. And then I'm also going to moisturise my lips with the Elizabeth Arden 8 Hour Cream. It's quite a glossy finish, but just so my lips are nice and soft by the time I finish my makeup. And then using a different finger, the Bobbi Brown Eye Cream, which is really nice because it's got some priming properties, which means it's going to sort of smooth your skin so your makeup goes on nicely. Really only just put a tiny amount, a tiny dab, and then applying it to where the surrounding eye bone is, not any closer, just like that. You can also apply some of this around the nose and lips as well if you like. So once that's had a couple of minutes to absorb, I'm going to use my tinted moisturiser. And I'm using this because I've got really dry skin, but also I just want a really light coverage. So this is going to look fresh for a lot longer on my dry skin instead of my skin sort of absorbing things all patchy and then it can look cakey. It just looks a lot nicer. And the Laura Mercier is a really nice tinted moisturiser, and it's also a very nice yellow tone, and I like the yellow tones better for myself. I'm only going to be using about twice that amount, so not very much at all. Just mainly in the areas where you need a bit of colour and slight coverage. Any spots or pinpoint concealing we're going to do in a minute. You can use a brush with this, but it's the same with your fingers. I like using my fingers. Okay. While that's soaking in, I like to brighten I've got a bit of discoloration around my mouth. So I'm going to do that with my Touche Eclat number 2. Just blend that into the base I've just done. One click's enough. And now to conceal these spots, I like to use the Vichy Dermablend foundation. It's a full coverage foundation. It leaves a very natural finish, and because it's very heavy duty, it works very nicely as a concealer. So I'm just applying it to the very tip of the brush, and then dabbing that on. Got some spots here. So at first I'm just applying the product, and then I'm going to go back in and blend, which means the product has a bit of time to warm up against your skin before you blend it. Just makes it easier to blend. And I can go in and apply a second coat to that nasty spot. I'm going to use the MAC 286, which is a synthetic tipped brush, just to blend around the edges. I don't blend over the top because you want to keep the product on the top of your spot. And then I'm also going to conceal around my nose, get a bit of redness, and I've got a broken capillary. But just a tiny amount. I mean, I don't want to have a really flawless face because it's the daytime and it's kind of sunny out, so I don't want people seeing that layer on my face. Now for under my eyes to conceal my dark circles. I absolutely love the Bobbi Brown's corrector in peach. And I don't use a concealer over the top. You can do, but it just makes it a lot lighter, and this is the perfect colour to get rid of that greyness under my eyes. So applying it first where you have most of the greyness. I'm using really light strokes just to feather it in. And you want to focus on brightening and correcting the dark circles on the inner corner mostly. It's going to look the most natural and it's going to be the most effective to brighten your eyes. I put it just a tiny bit at the top. I've got a tiny bit of greyness there, but there's barely anything on my brush. Again, we're keeping it light. And then the outside corner just a little bit, whatever's left on the brush. And then feather that out. Makes such a difference, doesn't it? Look at that. So I can get that little crease I've got there and then softly work it into the crease. Now the touche éclat again, but in number 3. One click is enough again. Just because I've got that kind of crease there, I'm going to lift that little shadow that it makes, shape of my eye. So number 3 is a peachy tone, which is nice for greys, and then back to number 2 again, which is kind of a universal tone for everybody. Number 2 can go on the height just above your cheekbone, where your eye kind of creases. And then patting that in. It's a very thin product, so you don't want to smear or swipe it around. So this is a perfect highlight for day because it's so thin and natural. You're not going to be able to see it on top of the skin. It's just going to create a really subtle light. Another nice brightening tip actually is to use highlighter number 2, just there. And it doesn't suit everybody, but it suits me because I've kind of got a bump in my nose. So by lifting that, it makes my nose appear straighter, and it also creates more space in between the eyes. And then I bring it to the inner corner and innermost. It's really subtle, but it's just a nice brightening trick. Okay, now for the brows. I don't like to perfect my brows too much. I like them to still look feathered and natural. I'm just going to use a powder, which is Coquette by MAC, which is too light for me, but I like to use 2 different powders and blend them into each other. So I start with one that's too light. and then brushing my eyebrows upwards and outwards. Push the tip of the brush in and then get the rest on the back of your hand, the excess. And look at your brow and just think where most of the gaps are and just apply it there. You don't need to apply it all over. Keep combing through, which repositions the hairs, and you can see where you need to do more or less. And you can get a darker powder. I'm going to use a little bit of Max Brun, and just where you wanted to fill in a gap but the light powder wasn't quite enough, just going to draw in some hairs. And then I've got quite cloudy brows, so I need to keep them in place. I like the Anastasia brow gel, but you can use any brow gel. You can get cheap ones, it's pretty much the same. So again, combing it up and out. And then any extra long ones, I just kind of push them down. I really don't recommend trimming your eyebrows because then they grow back really thick and wiry. It's not a good look. Moving on to the eyes, I'm going to start with a thin layer of primer, the Urban Decay. Just a tiny amount. And then blend that in with your finger, just really softly. I'm going to do a really soft smoky eye, so I want to map out the shape with my Chanel bronzer. It's a gel bronzer. I really like using creamy sort of gel products around my eyes. So just mapping out the shape first, so I can better see where I'm going to create the depth of my shadow. And also I'm going to use this bronzer on my face later, so it's going to help all the colours tie in together and you're going to have that harmony of colour around the face. So it's a good idea to use your bronzer as a base shadow. And I don't know where I got this from, but it's a soft khaki green shadow with a sort of goldy shimmer. So I'm literally just applying that to the very tip of my brush, so I don't want it to go over a large area of my eye. Getting the excess off on my hand and then applying it. Maybe you can raise your eyebrows slightly and then apply it to where you want most of the shadow and just keep blending that. That soft green and this sort of orangeness of our bronzer is going to go really well together. So there's nothing really left on my brush. Just still going to really blend that out. I'm going to get a smaller brush. This is a Clinique brush, but it's rounded. And just applying only a little bit to either side, getting the excess off. And then just where you need to, I mean my lids are getting a bit hooded, so I just need to set back that crease. Just in the depth. I also like to set back the corner there. I've got a bit of puffiness. You can go back to your bigger brush, which has barely got anything on it, and blend that out. Applying it just to the very tip of that little brush and blending it underneath. So to bring back the freshness that we want for our day look, I'm going to use the MAC Chromographic pencil, which is in NW25. So it's a skin colour rather than a white pencil on our inner waterline. Putting quite a bit of it in the inner corner and bringing it all the way across. Sometimes when your eyes are a bit red, this can really help to brighten up your eyes, but without looking too much, because obviously it's a skin coloured pencil. It's just going to make your eyes look a lot bigger as well. So there isn't anything left on this little brush that we used, but I'm just going to blend in that shadow that we applied into the pencil that I've just put on. Make sure everything's well blended. Now I'm going to use, it's an Estee Lauder powder, I don't remember the colour name, but this gold one here as a highlight, just in the inner corner. I mean, I'm using the sponge applicator just because it works okay for smaller areas and save me dirtying another brush. So just in the inner corner, and blending it onto the top of my lid like that. I also want to apply just a little bit onto the centre of my lid. Just going to make your eyes look bigger. It's going to be really subtle. To finish off the eyes, I'm going to curl my eyelashes. Being very careful you don't put any pressure on your lashes or pull them at all. Otherwise you're going to loosen, you're going to weaken the root of your lashes. And just for a bit of fun, I'm going to use a plum coloured mascara. It's number 5 by Yves Saint Laurent. It's a kind of gloopy mascara, but just be careful not to apply too much and it looks nice. Okay, it's looking a little bit clumpy, so I'm just using this MAC's fan brush for the eyelashes to comb it through. Okay, now that we've finished the eyes, let's move on to finishing the base. Again, going back to the Chanel bronzer, getting the MAC angled sort of blusher contour brush and just dabbing it, because I don't want to remove any concealing work I did. I'm just dabbing it on the bottom of my nose, sides of my nose. I didn't really need much bronzing, so I just used a really small amount. I like to put it here because I like to make my face look a bit less square, so applying it onto my jawline sort of rounds my face a little bit. And then my favourite blusher, it's the Chanel, what's it called? 62 Presage, the cream blush. I'm just applying a little bit and blending it into and just above the bronzing we've done. I like the peach tones for my complexion. I like warm colours, and also it's going to go really nice, this kind of orange with the green that we've got. Orange and green are very complementary together. Tiny bit just on the temples. Just kind of warms up my yellow complexion. And then I couldn't help but remove some of my concealing work, so I'm going to go back in with my concealer and reapply. And then again blend. So to set the concealing work that I've done, I'm going to use the Clinique Anti-Redness Powder with my Real Techniques setting brush. Just dabbing that on there. It's going to ensure that the concealer lasts for a lot longer time. Put it there. And then there's barely anything on my brush. Just dabbing underneath my eyes to set that concealing work. Getting a tiny bit more. And then around my nose. I don't want any shine here. And to finish it off, I feel like I want to add a bit of highlighter because I've got the soft highlight there. Just want to bring it onto my cheeks as well. I'm going to use the MAC, what's it called? Lustre Drops in Pink Rebel. Just applying it just below the outer corner of your eye. Okay, so you want to apply this just in a really small area, about 2 fingers width, underneath the outer corner of your eye. Tap that in. You just want it to catch the light as you turn. Kind of have a nice dewy radiance. You don't want to put it all over your cheeks because it's just not natural at all. It just looks too obvious. And then whatever is left on my finger, I just dab a tiny bit just above the bridge of my nose. I don't usually bother putting anything on my lips in the day, but I'm going to use the No. 7 lip pencil in Nude, which is really natural. It's just the colour of your lips, just to neaten the contours of my lips. Okay, so there you go, just a really light, colourful but yet subtle day makeup. It doesn't look like you're wearing anything on the skin, and it just looks like you've whacked on a bit of mascara and shadow and left the door, but it's taken a lot more than that. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you for watching. Bye.